Hey there everyone, this is ChefMKT, and welcome to Let's Play Touhou Labyrinth 2. Where's the patchouli mouse cursor? There you are. Okay, so quick sound check, beautiful, and let's start a new game. Okay, so a brief introduction to the game. First of all, this is a dungeon crawler RPG. And it is fairly similar to Etrian Odyssey, where a lot of people draw the comparisons from to this game. And that's mainly due to the fact that 1, they're both dungeon crawlers, and 2, they generally have a very steep learning curve as well as a difficulty curve. So there's that as well. Now, since this is the sequel to Touhou Labyrinth, I do need to talk about the original game. So in the first game, a lot of people wanted me to LP it, or Let's Play it, and I decided not to do that for various reasons, but my main reason for not doing it was that I would think that the videos wouldn't be that interesting at all, and that's mainly due to the game itself. I don't think it would make for a very interesting Let's Play at all, and it's because it's like 70% of the time you'll be exploring the dungeon, and then you'll get into random encounters, and then the other 20% would be me setting up my party to fight boss battles, and then the last 10% would be actually killing bosses. So I figured that's probably not going to be a very interesting set of videos to watch. However, with Touhou Labyrinth 2, it's still fairly similar in that regard, but I think there's a little bit more depth and complexity in terms of what you can do in the game. So that would lead me to think that the videos would be reasonable to watch, I think, because there's a lot of stuff you can do in terms of what you can do with your characters and how you want to customize each of your characters and what they do. So with the story itself in this game, as well as the original game, I do believe that the game itself doesn't take itself very seriously. And not only that, it also makes references to a whole bunch of things, and I'm pretty sure that's the case with the sequel as well. Now the plot for this game is essentially a giant freaking tree has sprouted out of nowhere, and everyone's like, dude, what the hell? There's a tree that just grew out of nowhere, let's go check it out. And everyone's like, okie dokie, let's go. But of course, these 4 are the only ones that have noticed a giant freaking tree that sprouted out of nowhere. So we'll be meeting up with all of the other characters as well. Some of them may be friendly, but some of them are most likely going to be hostile towards us. So of course, as Reimu and Co, as always, the usual, they are going to serve some beatdowns, yo. I don't think that made much sense in English grammatically, but I get the point across, I suppose. And away we go. So, I don't want to go through all of the options in the main menu just yet. I just want to go through the ones that are relevant as the game goes along. So let's start with the second one, which is Patchouli's Magic Library. And over here we have Patchouli! How you doing? Okay, so in this option, what you do is you will spend your hard-earned money from battles to level up stats on your characters. So, if you haven't noticed by now, this game is all about the numbers, baby. So, if we take a look at the first option here, so we have all of the stats that you can level up, and then over here we have the currency in the game, and this is how much I have at the moment, it's 100. And the numbers on this side here is how much it would cost to level up that stat once. Got that so far? Excellent. Let's go take a quick look at the stats. They're fairly self-explanatory, luckily, because we do have icons if you can't read Japanese, like me. Okay, so we have HP first, then we have physical attack, physical defense, magic attack, magic defense. In this game that is called the mind stat. I will be calling it the mind stat, because that's what it was called in the first game. Then we have speed. Then we have elemental resistances, so we have resistance against fire, ice, lightning, nature, spirit, light, and dark. I think some translations have been calling it the nether element, but I'm going to call it the dark element, because that's what I'm used to in the Strawberry Bose RPGs that I've played on my channel before. And lastly, a new additional element. So this is the physical attribute or element. So in the original game, the only way to decrease damage from physical attacks was your defense stat. But in this game, you have the physical defense stat as well as the physical attribute as well to factor in. So that's a new addition, I suppose. Okay, so with your first 100, I would highly suggest you focus on your main attack stat for your characters. So with Romu and Kiane and Marissa, that would be your magic stat. That's 5 there. Renosuke doesn't actually have any attack spell cards, so that's totally useless on him. But Kiane does have some useful ones, so I'm going to put 5 points into her. 3, 4, 5. And then finally, Marissa can take the rest of it, which should be 7 levels. Beautiful. The one thing that I want to mention right now is that for those of you who do not understand Japanese, that's perfectly fine. There is an English wiki currently in the works and is constantly being updated every day. So a big shout out to those guys who are contributing to that wiki. I will link the wiki in the description, in the video description below. And please refer to it because I will definitely be doing that. Okay, so this last option that I just selected here with RQ is this save and load function of the game. Very important in a long game like this, because you don't want to lose your progress now, do you? Of course not. So there we go. Beautiful. And save is the first option. I'm going to save on slot 5. And the second option is load, and you can load any save state you want. Beautiful. With that said and done, we can now actually go into the dungeon. But there's one other thing I want to mention first. So let's press X on your keyboard, and it brings up another menu. Now, the first option here is to look at the status of your characters. Second option is to equip items. I will go into a little bit more detail later on. Third option is to look at the items that you got sorted into 4 categories. The fourth option here is to go back to town if you're in a dungeon. On the second row, we have change your party formation. Now, party formation is extremely important. So the way this works is that the characters on the left side are the most likely to be targeted, and then the targeting priority goes down as you go further to the right. So obviously you want to have your tanky characters towards the left side, and the other characters where they can't take as much damage on the right hand side to increase the likelihood of the enemies targeting the characters that can actually take damage. And these slots here are the reserve slots. I will go into a little bit more detail in a second, but that will be for later on. And then this option here is to spend skill points on various passive skills as well as your spell cards. However, we will not be doing that right now. This option here is to rest. I will go into more detail later. And this is your options option. All good? Okay, let's actually get started. So I think that was under 10 minutes, which is pretty good for my standards, because I do tend to take a while explaining things. Because that's how I generally do my Let's Plays. I try to be informative with my videos and try to think like, okay, if I was playing this game for the first time, what would I have trouble with understanding? So clearly, since this game is in another language, I have to take that into account as well. Okay, all good in the hood. So here we are having a lovely conversation in the middle of the giant tree that grew in Gensokyo. I have no idea what they're discussing, but let's just move on. So our first priority here is to try to get more characters into our party, because that will increase our efficiency in terms of exploration, as well as increase our damage output, as well as utility and versatility in battles. So the first thing you want to do is actually make it to this exclamation point here, which is in red. So there are 2 types of icons that you will see in terms of exclamation marks. They are red and green. So the red ones are essentially event spaces. So various things will happen where you have dialogue and whatnot. So in this case, we have bumped into Mamizi, and then after this conversation, she will join our party. Now, the green exclamation points, they will actually indicate items that you can pick up when you go onto that spot. otherwise known as the boxes or chests in RPGs. Go figure. So in those particular chests or boxes, you can find crafting materials or equipment. So it is always in your best interest to explore every single red exclamation point as well as every green one. Okay, so that is said and done. Let's go back to town really quickly with this option here, because we want to add Momezi to our party. Okay, so there's more conversation here that's going on, but I don't really care about that because, as I said before, can't understand Japanese. No point in using a translation program for this, because all of the important information that you need to know is either displayed as an icon that's easily distinguishable, or you can reference the English wiki, which, as I said, very helpful resource to use if you're playing this game and don't understand Japanese at all. So, what other things can I talk about? Well, now that I think about it, I will be making a lot of references to the original game, so if you haven't played that before, you might be missing out on bits and pieces, but that's where I do draw a lot of my information of this game from, based on that experience from the first game. So with this third option here, this is essentially the party formation menu, where you can swap out party members and whatnot, and all that other good jazz. So since we picked up Momezi, I want to use her ASAP. So the first option here is to put characters into your party formation. So I'm going to put Momezi in there. Lovely. The second option here is to unequip items. So the first option from here is unequip items on your current party members. And I believe the second option is to unequip all items on all party members, even if they're in your party formation or not. Third option is to save your party formations into these 3 slots. Fourth option is to load your party formations from either of your 3 save slots. And then that's all you can do there. Now before we continue on, Momezi, get into the front line because you are going to be a useful physical attacker. Okay, now let's actually get back into the dungeon and do some exploration. Sounds great. And not only that, we might actually get into some random encounters for a change. Doesn't that sound lovely? Ah, sounds so great. Okie doke. So, obviously, because I'm the type of person I am, I'm going to want to explore every single tile on the entire map, because I want to make sure that I, 1, gather everything, and 2, it also allows me to get some experience along the way. Okay, so we have 5 commands here. So you have your normal attack, which you will probably never use ever. You have your spell cards, which is what you'll be using to attack most of the time. Form change is where you will switch out your characters from your reserve party into your active row. So during battles, only these 4 characters will actually participate in combat, but in the reserve row, they will also be ready to switch into the active row. So there's that option too. Concentrate will restore MP when you use it, and then escape will allow you to run away from battle, and it is a 100% success rate. Now with Momezi, we have 2 spell cards here. We have a single target physical elemental attack and a full screen. So since there's only 1 enemy, I'm obviously going to be using the single target. Now with Kiane, she has 4 spell cards. This is a full screen dark attack. This is a full screen spirit attack. This is a buff for your active row, which increases physical and magic attack, and this one increases your physical and magic defenses. So let's go with the dark elemental attack, because I do believe this acorn resists the spirit element quite well. Now as for Marissa, we have magic missile, which is a single target mystic elemental attack. Then we have asteroid belt, which is the full screen. Master Spark, which is a very high powered single, actually I think this is a full screen nuke, yes it is. And then we have Concentrate, which increases Marissa's magic attack. So let's go Magic Missile it up. Beautiful. And as for Raymond, we have Yin Yang Orb, which is a single target spirit elemental attack. We have Fantasy Seal, which is full screen. This heals your active rows HP. And last but not least, this is the Barrier spell card, which increases your physical and magic defenses. So let's go kill the acorn. Beautiful. So sorry for going through the spell cards so fast. So if you didn't catch what I talked about with the spell cards, You can either experiment yourself, it's fairly easy to understand, or once again, please refer to the English wiki. Now, a little bit of note about combat here. So what they're talking about here is that when combat ends, you will have 1 TP deducted from the members of your party that are left in the active row at the end of battle. Now, here's the other thing. When you run out of TP, that character will leave your party until you leave the dungeon. When you leave the dungeon, all of your TP will be restored. Now, TP itself is very important because obviously if you run out of TP, you can't use that character anymore until you return back to town. Now, the way that TP is calculated is you have to be very wary of it. 1, when you end combat, as I mentioned before, you lose 1 TP. However, if any characters lose HP during combat, they will lose additional TP because they need to restore back to their max health. So you need to be very wary of that. 3rd, when you want to escape from a battle, you generally don't want to do this, but if you have to, you will lose 3 TP for all active members, or all members in the active row, rather. So you also need to be wary of that as well. Okay, so that's the TP sorted out. Oh, for those of you that have played the original Touhou Labyrinth game, in the original game, it actually also costed you TP to switch characters from the active row to the reserve bench, or vice versa. In this game, it does not cost any TP whatsoever to switch characters out, or in. So that is definitely a plus in this game. And my Kiane died. I'm telling you, man. Okay, so obviously these acorn guys are very troublesome because they hit pretty hard. And they have high defenses at the moment because it's level 4 and everyone in my party is level 1. So I need to level up as soon as possible, so I want to survive as long as possible to gain as much experience as possible, so that when I return back to the dungeon, I can just mop the floor of everything here and complete the dungeon exploration in one fell swoop. That's the idea, but if that will actually work, I do not know. So if we ran into Parsi already, and now we have run into Aya, so there's that, and now she's gone. So you can press the A button on your keyboard to view the entire floor that you've explored so far. So there's a green exclamation point there that I want to get first, so let's go mosey along down here, and then we can maybe go grab it. Okay, so I'm just going to let Kiane kill these fluff balls, because the dark element will actually hit their weakness, because they are very weak to dark elemental attacks. So then the question becomes, how do you know if you're hitting a weakness or not? Well, that's a very good question. So basically, if you look at the numbers that, or the damage numbers that pop up when you use your spell cards or attacks, if the number that pops up is red, that means you're hitting a weakness. And we have Kogasa. Now, if you actually hit a enemy resistance, the number will turn up blue. Now, the extent of the weakness or resistance of your attack is based on the intensity of the red or blue color. So, the more intense the red color is of the damage, you're hitting a major weakness of the enemy. If it is a blue color that's very deep blue, intensified, then you're hitting a major resistance. So you want to avoid blue numbers, you want red numbers. Now that Kogasa that we just ran into there, apparently someone has stolen her umbrella. So she's obviously very distressed and sad about it. So it is our job as the main characters of the game to sort that out and figure out, 1, who stole our umbrella, and 2, what we can do to get it back. Obviously that will entail bashing some heads in, which is great for me, because that's exactly what I want. Beautiful. Okie doke, so let's go mosey along down here if there's anything else. Nope, just a corner. Okay, so let's take a look at the mini-map. Alrighty then, making some good progress here. I think we explored about 1/4 of the floor so far. Another green exclamation point, always a good sign. Picked up another item. And another battle. And full screen. Didn't do quite enough. I need to restore HP there. That's okay. Marissa, magic missile. And then Ramu can take care of the other one. But it missed. Well, I do want to talk about the evasion stat as well, but I think I'll need to wait for the next video for that, because I think I'm approaching the 30-minute mark for this video, so I need to end it fairly soon. But there is just one other thing that I want to grab here before I end the video, which is probably this item right here. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, no, wait. There's 3 items up there I want to grab first. Okay, so let's go to those sets of 3 items, and then we can call it a day. Sounds good. Oh, this looks dangerous. So we have a bunch of squirrels and a bee. Now, at level 1, these guys actually attack before I can act. So that is a very troublesome battle indeed. However, I managed to survive their onslaught, and Mimizi wipes the floor with them. Excellent. Okay, let's go check this out. Okay. So with these green exclamation points here, they are slightly different to the ones that we've already encountered. Now, if you look very closely here, they actually have a silhouette of a key here. Now, what this means is that it's essentially a locked chest. Now, the only way you can get keys in this game that I know of is through achievements. And at the very beginning of the game, you start off with 1 key. So this is the first major decision in the game. Now, the chest that you want to get is actually the one on the top right, which is this one here. Now, the reason why you want to grab this one and not the other 2 is because it contains 4 equipment items that are extremely powerful at this point in the game. The other 2 chests will just give you like stat items, which aren't as useful at this point in the game. So with that said and done, let's head back to town, which is this option right here. And this is the achievement section. Yes. So with that said and done, thank you very much guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be.